people with disabilities not only there, now we're thinking about inclusive design and how to design for the global citizen. So this is kind of my lab where I do research, where I write white papers with my colleagues and then learn and give back to the community. And there are a couple of ways that I share and give back to the community. This is a Slack community in South Florida. We have about 1,000 members. Some of them are already here attending this event. And this is a great community. Designers, developers, thinkers. So if you want to network, if you want to see what we share there, great resources. Go to fluxia.co and sign up. You should receive an email with acceptance for you to join the Slack channel, and make sure you check your spam folder. We also have fluxhours.com. So this is where I give a couple of hours of my time weekly to mentor and to review portfolios, to give career advice and learn what's new. So I have my own mentors that I use this time to learn from them and get some guidance. All right, so this is my story now. And this is about me and my son, and he happens to have the same name. And I created that version about 22 years ago, going to 23 now. And he's, you know, he was this little kid running around, wanting to be a veterinarian, and talking about Stanley, a Disney channel or show that they had the great big book of everything with all the animals. If you in that age range, you definitely remember the show. But this is one thing that made me reflect for this talk is time goes by fast. So 15 years later, he graduated as a software engineer from UNH, and today we work together. And it was through this work and my work that I got to meet Dr. Noel, right? Professor Lesley-Ann Noel. With her work, I do design thinking workshops, and I happen to find one of her artifacts that she created, like the designer's critical alphabet. These are a deck of cards that I have it on my desk, and it's very helpful when I'm designing solutions, and I go through them and I read them. This was an amazing a tool that I found in LinkedIn. And the way this works is, she gives these words for you to think through. And there is a definition, and then there's a thought-provoking question, right? So bias is the essence of this talk today. So when we design things, we have our own bias, and we tend to design for ourselves. So this activity today will give us some tools to remove our own bias. So through this designer's critical alphabet tool, I approached Dr. Noel and asked, hey, would you be interested in having a digital format of this? And we started, talking, and it's okay, let me sketch some ideas. And my son and I, we worked on this solution on a couple of weekends. It was very simple and cool. It was a great collaboration. It was actually his first mobile app. And so this is available for you to download and test. And I'll give Lesley the option to talk about this later on. So it's both for Android and iOS. So as you can see, I have all the reasons to be thankful, and Thanksgiving is just around the corner. I really feel that I am in a moment in my life that I'm very thankful and blessed for having my son working with me, by working in a profession that I simply love, that I can help people, and I really dedicate most of my time with a lot of joy doing what I do. But things change, right? So everything changes in life, and we need to be prepared for them. And I came across an article from Don Norman. And if you are familiar with the user experience space, Don Norman wrote a book in 1988 called The Design of Everyday Things. Right? So this is, he coined the term user experience. And this was 1988. And today, he is 84 years old. And he wrote this article for Fast Company I believe in March. And he's saying, like, I wrote the book on user-friendly design, and what I see today horrifies me because he has his own limitations due to his age. And he quotes, do not think that thoughtful design is just for the elderly or the sick or the disabled. In the field of design, this is called inclusive design for a reason. It helps everyone. So I think this helps us reflect on why would we bring an activity like this to a group. And could be anything. You don't have to be a product designer. You could be like a philosopher. You could be in a sociology field. And so, if you really want to evaluate human behavior in all levels, you can use this activity. So that's what brought me to think through that article, and from the influence that Lesley-Ann Noel gave me with that little tool, I was able to craft this workshop. And essentially, what this is, it's something that help us think how our own bias gets in the middle of our design decisions. And in order to illustrate that, I'm going to tell a story of two individuals, different experiences. And they're driven by how they were brought up. They may have been educated and brought up by binary parents and siblings. Maybe not. Maybe they were raised by non-binary couples, or was raised by a single mother. They were probably exposed to different beliefs or just a single belief, faith. They had many relationships along the way and heartbreaks. And all of these, they make these decisions, whatever profession they choose to take, they will make their own decisions based on these experiences, right? So how active they are, what apps they use. And these factors influence our style, the way we write, the way we talk, the colors we choose, the way we dress, right? How we design our products. So, but time changes. Let me just move something on my screen because it's right in front of there you go. Right. So time changes, right? One thing's for certain, our ears and noses will continue to grow. Our body and mind will continue to accumulate all these experiences. Some of us will have temporary setbacks. Others will have permanent disabilities. Some will continue to tell us many, many stories for a long time. But what if we could hear our own stories from our future selves? What questions would we ask ourselves if we could come from 20 years from now, could return and give us some thoughtful advice and wisdom? Even further, what if you could go back in time and you could tell yourself 15 years ago things, or maybe 10, there's a lot of young people here, maybe 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself? Right? So I think this is the exercise that we want to go through. And this is what I call the Back to Your Future. It's an interview with your future self. And basically this is a worksheet that has 4 steps, right? The first step is you allow some time to create questions. And you may create questions in specific categories to help accelerate and help nurture the thinking around topics. You can create your own rules, like let's not ask about lottery numbers or life and death situations, or no doomsday when the end of the world will come, right? No politics, no romance. So you can set your rules around what you're trying to achieve. The second step is to challenge your questions. Mostly like you know, if you're familiar with the double diamond, go broad and then you narrow down into specific important issues, right? So that's step 2. You challenge your questions, and you may have different ways of challenging. I'm gonna go through each one of these sections in the coming slides, just so you can understand some twists that we can give. Step 3, listen to yourself or your future self. This is the part of the interview. This is where you select your questions that you want to ask, and then you try to answer. You can give different ways to answer that. And the final step is to reflect on these answers and unnecessary behaviors that you have today. And then you may choose to adjust or course correct some of your bias. So as any design thinking workshop, it's always nice to have an icebreaker or a warm-up just to set the stage for the activity. And this is something that I did with myself just to help create some ideas for you. So it's like, you know how there are these aging apps. And so you could ask, especially now that everyone's doing remote workshops, you can ask your participants to come to the workshop with a couple of photos of you with a young filter on it and with an age filter on it. And this will give them some tools for them to visualize those personas when they are talking to themselves. So this is me in today, 2020, and using that app, this is me about 40 years ago, I guess, for, you know, just, yeah, 30 years ago, right? And what kind of advice would I give myself when I was about 12 years old, right? So advice that I would give myself would be, hey, watch out for diabetes, right? You're probably gonna be hard of hearing, and your faith will help you through some hardship. I also would tell myself healthy exercise. Like growing up in the 80s, we were all about, you know, body shapes, and especially growing up in Rio de Janeiro. So it's like a beach city, and we all like, idling our own bodies. So definitely do healthy exercise, learn how to type. And I was talking to Naisha yesterday, and it was kind of funny. I asked her, have you ever seen typewriting? She said, no. So, but even to this day, when I type, I hammer the keyboard, because that's how we used to type then. With typewriter, then you really have to put some power into it. Right? And interesting enough, I've been in the US for about 30 years, and I never picked English in school. I always chose French. And so, definitely advise my past self to, hey, study English. It definitely helped me. So this is an example how you can do a quick warm-up for this activity, and going to your past self, and then going to your future self with the photos that they bring on. And this is me about 20 years from now using that app. And it's really scary because I look like my father. So advice from my future self should be, right? I should know that, yeah, diabetes is still chasing you. And indeed it is. Deafness would definitely help happen to me, and your faith will help others. Advices will be, never late to exercise. I am lazy as hell, and I know that my conscience keeps telling me, go out, go exercise, right? Meditate. That's something that my mind is never stops. I'm always thinking about something, right? And I really need to learn how to slow my mind and just give some space, right? And perhaps learn sign language, right? So if I knew that I could uh, become deaf or hard of hearing more than I already am, definitely something that I would love to learn, like ASL. All right, so I'll open up for questions in a little bit. I just want to go with some water. Feel free to ask any questions on on the chat. I'm not sure if we have chat or Q&A here, but feel free to ask any questions. And Aisha, if you wouldn't mind monitor those questions, and if you think that that's something that you can ask during the talk, you feel free to interrupt me and ask. But this is the design thinking activity. And the idea here is you have the worksheet and the icebreaker photos. And this is intended to an audience that's looking to reflect on human behavior over time. The duration is about 5 to 10 minutes for each step. So there are 4 steps. And the expected outcome for this will be to have an open and frank discussion about our current behaviors and how these behaviors impact others, and how changes in society shape moral and intellectual values. So the worksheet, like I mentioned before, you can use in 2 ways. You put your name on the top, and on the top right, you have present and future date. This is how you can choose to meet with your past self or with your future self. So the present date, if I want to meet my past self, will be 1980. And the future date will be 2020, will be today. So it's me going back in time, right? And think about the questions that you, as a past self, would ask you, and around some of these categories. Step 1 would be to ask questions, but you can definitely set your own rules, uh, like no lottery questions, no life and death. So you can create anything you want. Right? And here we put some kind of a boilerplate or starting categories for you to think across different situations. And this is if you're using uh, a real-time collaboration platform like Miro, you can put this, I'm gonna provide the PDF, you can upload the PDF and you can have your participants put sticky notes into these areas here. You can zoom in and put the sticky notes there, and then you can dot vote or select the question that you would like to ask yourself. But here's some categories to think through, right? So lifestyle, how the future has changed the way you live, right? So going back to 1980, where we didn't have smartphones, where we didn't have electric cars, where we didn't have cable TV, right? We didn't have the internet, right? So how did that change? Like you knowing all of this today, if you go back 20 years, maybe 30 years, what would you tell yourself around your health and how your health, like how my health today has been diminished over time? My relatives, right? Did my family increase or decreased? Right? Did I have 3 children? Am I thinking now that I have to put 3, 4 children through college? Right. So these are life decisions that definitely, like, if you could go back and start thinking about saving. So this really helps you, especially if you're at a young age now. You can definitely start thinking how to set your career goals, to set your designing your life. I have a mentor and colleague, Joe Amina. He has a podcast, and his tagline is the best thing you can design is your life. I love that line, right? And it is true. And this is a tool for you to help you design your life. Around your career, how much have your professional life impacted others? Have you had any disabilities? Like today, I am hard of hearing. Technology is not even going to talk about that because technology has been growing exponentially over the years. I can even imagine how technology will be 20 years from now, right? I can hope that we will have cures for everything. Like for all sickness, we have a cure for everything using technology, but we don't know how that will be. I can have many hopes around that. Gaps. So we are living this past couple of years. We have had social, economic gaps, and like gender, wealth, races. How has these gaps impacted our lives? The way we relate to each other, you know, the way we have empathy for someone's sexual preference. And I know, and this is something that changed my beliefs over time and my bias over time. So growing up in Brazil, being one of 3 brothers, so we have a very macho culture, and it's all about being a boy, being like being not wearing, not using pink collars and all that. So from my profession, designing for all people and learning about diversity, inclusion, belonging, I changed the way that I perceive these topics. Right? I have a lot of respect and empathy for the people who choose a different gender. or how to design for them. Which makes me, just on a side note, like, why are we still asking for gender doing a job into application, right? Why do we need to review our gender? These are questions that we would never ask ourselves 10, 15 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And these recent years, it's almost like, yes, we are evolving. Yes, we are divided. Yes, we are, because we need to talk about these issues, right? And the evolution of these issues will bring us to a much better state. If you look at through civilization, the history of civilization and humanity, we are always evolving. We used to kill people laughing, not today. So these categories are important. You are free to change these categories, and you can create your own categories to tailor what you want to get from your participants. So step two is really like, with this collection of questions, you can now put a twist on it and say, what if you could only ask one question from all of these? What if you could only ask your question? These are techniques that you use to shorten the time or to prioritize the importance of what you're trying to achieve, or the importance for each individual, right? What if you had limited time? Instead of just asking one question that would take 15 minutes to answer, what if you had only 30 seconds? Like, can you ask a question that you should expect a short answer? Or maybe you can ask 3 questions in 30 seconds, right? I don't know. What if you could only pick one category? Well, let's talk about, technology. You know, let's envision how to create solutions. These are tools that you can use for other design thinking activities as well. And I wanted to put a bonus option here is, what if you would assume a future disability? Like I assumed on mine. So I'm gonna go legally blind, or I'm gonna go deaf, right? What would you change today? Step 3, this is another 10 minutes that you can take, like, from the questions that you have selected. Now you give yourself some wisdom, right? And consider that you have seen good and bad things over time, that you have experienced amazing changes in behavior and in science, right? Don't feel afraid to innovate in this area, right? And don't be skeptical, right? Skepticism is a blocker. And if you are a thinker, if you are a problem solver, you should not put skepticism in your vocabulary. Right? The bonus in this category would be, in your future, you are a Nobel Prize winner. Doesn't matter the field, right? Just add that twist that you can influence not only yourself, but you influence the masses. You influence the entire world. You are a leader. As a leader, what would you change? Would you really be posting everything on social media today if you knew that you would become a well-known leader? The stuff that we post today on Instagram, our children will see them. Our grandchildren will see them. Right? So that's kind of the tool that we use to give ourselves time to think about our current behaviors. Step 4, and the last one, is really a self-reflection time, right? Based on the answers that we could presume, how do you how would you change your current life? How would you change your current career knowing that you could become a Nobel Prize winner? Right? How would that change your approach to design if you are a designer? There's so many things that we can do. So here's another twist to this exercise. Like if you have one of these deck of cards, you could just randomly pick a card, a category, and you place them on a worksheet, and then you can ask questions in those categories. And that's it. So you can, I'm going to open up for questions, obviously, but this is the link where you can download this worksheet today. This is a Dropbox link. If you do not have a Dropbox account, Naisha will be sending this presentation along with the link to the recording along the, the, the worksheet for you. And if you really want to contribute, so I created this worksheet in Figma, looking to expand this and from English to other languages if you are willing to contribute. Make sure you hit me on LinkedIn or you know, we'll find a way to send my email address. Naisha will send my email address. And I'll open up for questions. Hopefully I did it in good time.
Hey, Marcelo. My name's Alvin.
Hey, Alvin.
Hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Just one question. Perhaps maybe you have some anecdotes related to this, but, you know, I think in our day-to-day lives, you know, there's probably a lot of chatter from the news, from our jobs and all that. Do you have any advice in terms of increasing the quality when you are at the step of listening to yourself or when approaching this task, you know, in terms of integrating it into your day? You know, I think sometimes it's difficult perhaps to unwind from work or things like that. So personally speaking, is there anything that you found for yourself that's worked really well in terms of increasing the quality of what you're putting down and for yourself?
Well, you know, just the exercise. So this is what I do for a living. So I'm you know, I do problem solving solutions and I design solutions. And the way I think is always changing. I'm changing something. I'm changing an older website to something newer that people can have a better experience. I'm changing an app. I'm changing a workflow because a client asked to add preferred name. So that makes me do a research. Why do we need to add preferred name on a job application, right? So that I'm always thinking through that. So naturally and thankfully through my profession, I'm always changing. My son's on a call and he's seen me changing over time. I smoked for 20 years, right? So I stopped smoking about 15 years ago. Right? So I think it's not tips that I can give to help you consider changing through the times that we're going through, but it's you create habits. I happen to have these habits through my profession. I don't know what you do, Alvin. You're probably going through school, but even in school, the choices that you make today, even if you think I could become a leader, right? If you seen if you have read the biography of Barack Obama, you saw that he was inclined from the very early days. He had community centered thinking. I do a lot of work with the community, and I tell you, it helps a lot. So this is one advice that I can give anyone: help others, right? Join a community. hope I answer your question in a way that will help you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I don't want to hog the floor, but I just want to emphasize to people in the room that Marcelo is definitely someone to connect with. He just reached out to me and said, hey, let's create an app. And, you know, we spent some wonderful Saturday mornings just chatting and talking about how we could do things together and how we could do things differently. So, you know, it's just like a really open, genuine, yeah, he just wants to share. Yes, unpretentious. Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see if we could get some more questions coming in. Or I'll be very teacherly and say, Richard, because I see you. What's your question for Marcelo? I'm picking on people who I know, even if I know you casually.
Okay, so me, Richard, or too late, right?
Oh, Richard Novoa, yes.
Okay. All right. I as you were speaking, you were telling him that you can apply this for yourself, and you can apply this for if you're solving for a customer, if you're solving for a client, if you're solving for a community, that you can think about like the future of that, and then or the past of that, and do this same kind of thinking. So my question to you would be like, let me think. Is because let me go back to my question.
A blank time. So
Yeah.
I'm starting to monitor the chat here, and I see a question from Christy Pace. Does everyone in your company do this for themselves? So like I mentioned at the early beginning of the talk, is this is a brand new design thinking activity. You are the first group that actually seeing this and learning about this. Now, this is nothing, novel about this activity, but now I'm proposing a framework to help create a structure and work with your team, work with your group to think about and to self-reflect in times of change. That's what we're doing right now, right? And that's why I love design thinking. It's like, it's very flexible. You're creating tools to help change.
So Laura had a question. I don't know if Laura wanted to ask a question. Laura Murphy.
Hi.
Hi.
Laura.
I haven't checked my camera this morning. Hope it's okay. Thank you so much, Marcelo, for sharing this and your life with your son. It's nice to meet you. So I teach at Tulane with Lesley. It's really great to hear this model, and I appreciate you sharing it. And I had one question you just answered, which is how you've used this so far. And since it's so brand new, you haven't had a chance to use it yet, except, I guess, on yourselves. So I think this is more of a comment that I'm just looking forward to trying this out with graduate students at Tulane in my class in the spring, as it looks really helpful.
Thank you.
And maybe we could be informed and consenting guinea pigs and try it out and share feedback.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to help you if you want to collaborate. We can set up some activities. We can prepare for that. So. And again,
Right.
this is all in Creative Commons, so you can choose and change to your life. So
I already downloaded it.
Yay. I see Sneha has a question. Do you want to read it, Sneha? Yes, okay, good.
Hi, Marcelo. I really liked your presentation and the idea of how you talked about we should get to know more of the community and everything. So I'm like working as a public health professional, and I have like worked with kids and seeing the slide deck and everything. I'm interested, like, can this be designed in an emergency based situation where uh, like kids can be our target population? And if so, have you like, what would be your suggestion if I have something in mind to do it in future?
For I think you broke up a little bit, but is that related to children? Like how
Yeah.
to apply this to children? Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, I don't have an answer ready, but I can definitely think of some activities. And, you know, the thing with children is that they don't have enough experiences. We can, my recommendation, the same way I was kind of testing this with Naisha yesterday, and it was kind of a funny moment that I asked her, can you see yourself without a phone today? And she said, no. Uh, can you see yourself without social media? Right? And I threw a word, and for those who have been around, I threw a word. Oh, have you ever heard the name Orcut? And she was like, I see Leslie is laughing. So no, what is Orcut? So Orcut was a small social media company that we used to almost like a LinkedIn, but for private life. That was like, it was very popular everywhere else. When MySpace was popular in the US, everyone else was using Orkut, and Google bought that company. And then they ditched and Facebook came about. So, and she didn't know that, right? So having experienced these applications um, it gives me ideas for whatever I create. But with children, it's different. The same way I was kind of playing with Naisha yesterday, with children, you need to shorten the amount of time, right? Because they will not have a good reasoning to think how their life will be 5 years from now, right? Or if they would not reflect, you know, if the kid is 5 years old, they would not be able to reflect 2 years back. So try to shorten the time to next week, to last week, right? Remember that vacation, that place that we went for vacation. Try to grab memories. And please, if anyone has any ideas, and comments about this, I'd be curious to hear. But that's what I would do. I would try to shorten the time with children.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Stephen has a question about UX design and UX design and jobs. Stephen, would you like to ask?
Hey, sure. I'm just hoping that you could just kind of speak to the job and the career in a broader sense. Very interested in it, maybe kind of breaking into it. But I have some maybe concerns as I continue to do research that it seems to be a relatively nebulous in definition. And even within the job marketplace, you know, you get confusion between UX and UI.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, how do you get to becoming, you know, it seems UI might be a little bit more graphic design oriented,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you get into the broader, I think more design thinking focused UX? You know, do you break in via graphic design or more of a market
So,
research analyst kind of?
It's a great question, and I'll give you two answers. One is very short. The other one is a recommendation.
Okay.
I've been in this field since the very beginning. There was no design school back in the 80s when I started. And everything that I learned I learned through the evolution of the industry. And so what happens, I have had many titles. I started as a drafter, on drawing on a drawing board with ink pen for GE in Brazil. And as I evolved, when they start putting the PCs in the department, they put me, because I was only 19, they put me to learn, how to use the computers. The folks that have been there for a while, they didn't want to deal with computers. They didn't believe in computers. That's one note there, because that has a lot to do with the talk today. So throughout the years, I learned my profession. Right? And since I didn't have a college degree, my approach was to always stay ahead and try to learn something that no one was learning about. And though I could learn, I could master, and I could give back to the community. And that's how I really got into the community work. Learning, sharing, learning and sharing. So to answer your question in two simple answers. One is, this is a great time to become a user experience designer. Whether you're coming from the graphic design, which is mostly aesthetics, and intend to go into the marketing field, or if you really want to go and to the other side and understand user experience and do user research and do information architecture, think about the data, show me the data, and how does that relate with the user's pain point, right? How can we create solutions with this data that will create a good outcome for their user? So that's a completely different thinking. You're not trying to attract the interest of someone through aesthetics, right? You're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to solve a task. So these are two separate fields. I don't see any confusion in that, between graphic design and user experience. And the other short answer that I would give you is that join Fluxia. So we have over 900 people, designers within this field. I see many folks here like Claudio Vera, I see Michael Scofield here. So these are amazing professionals, and they are on a Slack community, and you can ask questions. We have mentorship programs to help people like you, Stephen, answering those questions. So please feel free to. You can go to fluxia.co. I think I'm still sharing my screen.
Yes, and I put the link in the chat.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah. So I'll share the link. I'll show the link here as well. There we go. Yeah. So fluxia.co is our Slack community, and fluxhours.com is where you can connect with all the design mentors, and you just book time with them. It's all free, and great people donating their own time. So hope I answered your question. You're welcome.
It looks like we had another question in the chat after that from Fiona. It says, do you think this would work for people who don't know what they want to do in the future?
As a career?
I don't know, Fiona, did you want to elaborate on that?
Oh, this was going back to the exercise, and just because you were saying how you have to think about like kids you might have, or that sort of thing. But if you're not sure about what you want to do in the future, if you do want to have kids, or if you do want to do all these other things,
that's actually a good exercise. So I don't have the answer for everything. And I think it's the important thing is for you to be humble enough not to try to give an answer for this type of question. But what I could suggest is follow your instinct, and help others. Find something. If you want to do something in the future, include in the factor in this equation to, I have to do something that will help others. We tend to ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? And this may be a cliche by now, but I read someone, or I watched someone talking about this, and she said, we should not be asking children what they want to be when they grow up. We should be asking them what problem they want to solve when they grow up. That's the best way to help children, or to help yourself, foreseeing a better future. So.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Hey, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm Slack, and I love meeting people. I love interacting, and this is my school. Community is my school. I learn everything from you, and if I don't know something, I will lead you to someone who's really good at it. Right? So just please include me in your life, and just so I can learn something. And thanks everyone for allowing me to be in this platform and to present to your community, Nation and Lesley. I really appreciate this.
Do we have time for any more questions? I have one.
Oh, that must be a hard one.
Jump right in. We have like 2 minutes, so just jump in.
I wanted to know how did you come up with this exercise? What gave you the idea to create this?
Sure. So I gave a couple of talks in inclusive design for the global citizen, and through my research, I came across Don Norman's article about how he had changed, and he wrote a book in the 80s about user experience design. He was the father of that term, user experience. And himself, he's having disability issues today, and he wrote the book, and he didn't include accessibility in it, or he didn't include solutions that would last as long as he would be 90s. Right, so I think this has really helped me thought, and obviously the designer's critical alphabet card from Lesley, that helped me say, oh, I can kind of combine these and really address this issue in a way that I can help a group. So I gave him $20 to ask that question.
Well spent. Well spent.
Yeah, good investment. Now you should bring us home, I suppose.
Yes, I was going to say, if there's no more questions, I just want to thank you all for coming. Thank you so much, Marcelo, for presenting on this. I hope everyone got some really useful resources and links. And again, this will be available to you on the Taylor website after this presentation is over. And yeah, earlier we were asking people where they came from. So we would love to know if you guys want to shout it out before you leave, where you're tuning in from. And also I'm dropping the LinkedIn for Marcelo in the chat, but also for our last DT Gumbo of the semester. I'm also dropping a link for that. If you're interested in that, that's going to be on Monday. So yeah, let us know where you guys are tuning in from. I see some people in the chat, New York, Nigeria. Oh, wow. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Pictures.
Naisha, I'm gonna go. So thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.